Hello, and welcome to this week's Movie Math, where another female-led action movie bites the dust. Jurassic World Rebirth, you in danger, girl. And just like Thunderbolts, audience scores don't seem to matter. People love these two movies, but still, forget exceeding expectations at the box office. These two movies couldn't even meet expectations. Woo! And interestingly, they have the same problems. Unlike Minecraft and Lilo and Stitch, these two movies couldn't bring out the Hispanic and Latino audience in full force. And that's with Ana de Armas in the lead role for Ballerina. We've talked about how hard it is to try to directly appeal to the Hispanic and Latino audience. They like what they're going to like, and Hollywood seems to have no control over it. And both movies skewed overwhelmingly male. 65% for Thunderbolts, 63% for Ballerina. I believe The Marvels was also somewhere in the 60s as well in terms of male to female audience. A good sign for Jurassic World Rebirth is that Dominion was only 56% male, so it seems that more women are interested in that franchise. What has happened to the appeal of killer babes? Angelina Jolie built an entire career off of it. Even ScarJo's Lucy fared better. Another potential good sign for Jurassic World Rebirth, but then we look at Black Widow's box office. That was during the pandemic. And while both of the sequels fizzled out, Wonder Woman and Captain Marvel both got off to very good starts, although perhaps their crappy sequels are part of the current problem. Also, some of you are probably like, what about Hunger Games, Grace? But that is, of course, based on a series of books, which always helps when appealing to female audiences. John Wick ain't based on no book. It would be hilarious if it was. All right, is it Ana de Armas, I'm sorry to say? She's been working for a very long time and has never had a hit movie herself, but she was very well received in not just one, but two franchises. I'm talking James Bond and Knives Out. So many people said they wanted her to have an action franchise, but apparently, like so many things these days, that was just social media chatter. And the action in Ballerina is phenomenal. Chad Stahelski came back and reshot this movie because he knew how much was riding on it to keep this franchise going beyond Keanu Reeves. And he succeeded. Again, everybody who sees this movie goes, whew, it sure is good. That's some great action. But it has the second lowest opening for the entire franchise. Seemingly all the goodwill built up by the last three films wiped away. I know a lot of you didn't see Ballerina, so why? So, I'm not sure what Lionsgate is going to do. Remember last year for Lionsgate? I mean, this is better than last year, but it's still not great. It's not even good. I mean, every studio needs franchises as a foundation to build on. And you know what? Lionsgate has very nice franchises, and in their defense, they are trying to keep them alive. They have new entries planned for Saw. That one's a little bit, that's not even dated, but Now You See Me 3 is coming up quickly. Hunger Games, the casting for this latest installment is bananas. And then, of course, John Wick. By the way, I'm going to be covering all these franchises, reviews, box office, and more. So be sure to subscribe for all those goodies. We want to see if the AI that's now apparently running Lionsgate knows what it's doing. Did the AI cast the new Hunger Games film? Get Kieran Culkin on the phone, or his agent. But Kieran Culkin just won an Oscar. He's not going to want to do Hunger Games. Put me on the phone. Let's see what's going on over there. It's funny that Lionsgate keeps putting out headlines where they're like, maybe AI could do this as well. But it's not working out for John Wick. Maybe the AI wasn't plugged in yet, which is now 0 for 2 when it comes to attempts at expansion. I'm talking about that crappy show as well. But this was great. I mean, Ballerina might end up finding an audience on digital and streaming down the line, and thankfully the budget was reasonable, unless they're fudging the numbers because, again, rumor has it, they did shoot the movie basically twice. But maybe it only cost $4 to $5 million a pop. But speaking of money, you know who's really going to make out like a bandit here? Pew, pew, pew. Not Florence Pugh. She's poor Thunderbolts. But I'm talking about Mr. Keanu Reeves, who Lionsgate is going to just throw so much cash at to get him to agree to John Wick 5. He doesn't want to do it. His knees Will Lionsgate pay for new knees? We'll call him John and Wick. Or, maybe he can do most of his fights sitting down. Didn't Steven Seagal invent that? I believe some other actor also recently did a lot of their fighting sitting down. Look, John Wick is all about inventive action sequences, so I'm sure Chad Stahelski can come up with some way that Keanu Reeves can still do action, but yet we protect the knees. Are you even interested, though, in a Keanu-less John Wick movie? Because as Ballerina has just proven, John Wick-style action doesn't cut it. Even if someone else is doing it. Again, was Ana de Armas the problem? What does this mean for Fantastic Four, which has made it no secret that Vanessa Kirby Sue Storm is the leader of the team? There's some other things that have kind of gotten out about how female-centric the film is, but they are admitting that Sue Storm is the lead, basically. Although you might have noticed on some of the more recent posters that Pedro Pascal is front and center. Although Pascal, who has proven to be a huge draw on streaming, has not yet proven himself on the big screen. Although maybe he will here. He's certainly getting paid for this. You get that bag, Pedro. I think he got over $10 million for this movie. Good for him. He's at least getting his money. Fandango announced that Fantastic Four had the best first-day pre-sales of any movie this year. Although the previous record holder was Lilo and Stitch. They're falling fast. We'll talk about Superman in a moment. But Lilo and Stitch, even being the previous record holder for pre-sales, still wasn't able to top Minecraft. And Minecraft was driven by last-minute walk-up business. Everybody at the last minute was like, let's go see Minecraft. Hollywood doesn't care when you decide, as long as you do. Still, Fantastic Four's pre-sales do seem to indicate that the movie might open somewhere between the two, between Lilo and Stitch and Minecraft, which would be fantastic for Marvel, who has yet to open a movie this year. Forget north of 100 million, they can't even open at 100 million. So they would be thrilled with that kind of a performance. Maybe not if you told them last year that's where they would open. I think they were thinking maybe closer to Deadpool and Wolverine numbers, but now they'll take it. Walk-up business was also big for Lilo and Stitch. Walk-up business is becoming a big part of the industry. People are like, I don't want to go see a movie. Well, maybe I will. Because, I think a lot of people are still kind of angry with Hollywood a little bit. But they're getting you. They're getting you at the last minute. And Fantastic Four will need major walk-up business because you can see that there are still plenty of tickets available. And these are premium Saturday night showtimes. For the most part, these aren't premium screens, but even the premium screens still have seats available, even at AMC Lincoln Square, and not just the Dolby, but the IMAX as well. AMC Lincoln Square is the most popular theater in the country. You know why AMC's ticketing site or an app crashed when Fantastic Four tickets went on sale? Because of this theater. You know how they got the app working again? They took this theater offline. That's how big a deal AMC Lincoln Square is. But they aren't sold out for Saturday, even in the IMAX. That to me is really surprising. Although that is a forced 3D showing at the prime time. So mean. All right, so ticket sites did crash, which is fantastic publicity. But this is clearly not a situation like Avengers Endgame or Spider-Man No Way Home, where when the sites came back online, there were no good tickets left. Or in the case of Endgame, no tickets left, period. That was amazing. What a time to be alive. I'm not saying Fantastic Four won't do well, and it seems that it might open very well in league with Minecraft and Lilo and Stitch, two movies, by the way, significantly buoyed by Latino and Hispanic turnout. Let's see again if Pedro Pascal can help in that regard, but clearly Hispanic and Latino audiences are a wild card. I think the Rotten Tomatoes score will be a factor, as well as how big Superman does. It could either wipe Fantastic Four out. People are like, I'm still seeing Superman, baby. Although it will lose its premium screens to Fantastic Four. But then also, it could help. A rising tide lifts all boats. People might be like, I loved going to see Superman. Let's keep this party going with Fantastic Four. Although, as I pointed out late last week on the live stream, Disney has this thing going with A-List, which just went up to 4 reservations in advance instead of 3. And they were like, why don't you use all your A-List reservations, all 4 of them, for the Fantastic Four? Which leaves no reservations available for Superman. That's so underhanded. So Disney. But yes, when do tickets for Superman go on sale? Apparently this Wednesday, June 11th, exactly 1 month out. And it better break the pre-sale one-day record for the year, or I think obviously, well, we're going to talk about that. It should be able to, that's something I've said about these records and trailer views and pre-sales. The next big movie always tops the last one, it seems. So we really have to wait to see how they actually do. What are your ticket buying plans for Superman, Fantastic Four, and heck, even Jurassic World Rebirth with that female lead? ScarJo's like, ScarJo, damn it. Do you have your tickets already? Are you planning on walking up the day of? Or are you maybe on the fence with some of these movies? Sound off down below. As for our Memorial Day holdovers, they're still holding kind of steady in terms of drops. Again, pretty much in tandem. 47% for Lilo and Stitch and 45% for Mission Impossible. Lilo and Stitch, well, this is interesting. It is closing in on $1 billion, one would think. However, it couldn't do it in 19 days like Inside Out 2, meaning it won't have hit the milestone before How to Train Your Dragon hits theaters this coming weekend. This is the big question now, will How to Train Your Dragon be able to keep Lilo and Stitch from hitting $1 billion? Lilo and Stitch has a little over $200 million to go, and some are thinking that How to Train Your Dragon might open big itself, maybe $100 million or more. The review embargo for How to Train Your Dragon lifts tomorrow. The premiere was over the weekend, but a lot of the all-media press screenings, mine included, are actually tomorrow night. So my review will not go up until Tuesday. We'll see how that works for massaging the Rotten Tomatoes score. We'll see what it starts out at and where it goes from there. So it's really going to be a 2-day conversation, though, for the How to Train Your Dragon Rotten Tomatoes score. Although will it? Let's see how it goes. Everyone's trying different strategies with how to, again, as I said, massage those tomatoes. You know what I'm saying. All right, so if How to Train Your Dragon can keep Lilo and Stitch from hitting $1 billion, we'll see if Disney maybe starts to take Universal's competition a little more seriously. Universal has been coming for Disney for a while now, but Disney keeps shrugging it off, at least publicly. They're like, Epic Universe, I hope everybody loves it. Break glass, they're like, I'm curious, what the actual dynamic is behind the scenes. Are you planning to see How to Train Your Dragon for Father's Day weekend? Some of us felt Superman should have opened here. Man of Steel was a Father's Day release. In fact, I remember seeing that with my dad for Father's Day when it came out. And my dad's very excited for Superman. But Universal nabbed the weekend for their own father-son story. Gerard Butler is excellent as Stoic the Vast, a.k.a. Viking Papa. I wasn't even really thinking this as a Father's Day movie, but now I kind of am. I don't know why they don't play that up more in the ad campaign. What are your Father's Day plans, and do they involve a movie at any point during the weekend? Do you make the entire weekend about Dad? My family does. My family's big on expanding holidays. I think everybody is these days. Everybody's like, what? I think this holiday should be 3 to 4 days. It's fun. All right, I'll still be doing movie math that day because, again, it's a whole weekend of fun. So we're going to do stuff later in the day on Sunday. All right, as for Mission Impossible, well, like with Thunderbolts, it's getting harder and harder to put a positive spin on the box office. I mean, everybody likes both these movies, but apparently from afar. It doesn't look like either one's going to hit a $200 million domestic. Ouch. But while that's unusual for Marvel, it's not that unusual for Mission Impossible. Tom Cruise. Mission Impossible, though, has always been a global franchise. He plays very big overseas. And sure enough, its overseas numbers are much stronger. And it's over 400 million worldwide, which cannot be said for Thunderbolts. I don't think Thunderbolts is going to get to 400 million worldwide. But at this rate, Mission Impossible Final Reckoning isn't going to be able to catch up to the last entry, and that was considered a big disappointment. Maybe this was the last Mission Impossible movie, at least for a little while. I think they should consider taking the franchise to streaming for a break like they did with Star Wars. I still like the idea people have had for a show about the submarine crew. What would you do with the Mission Impossible franchise right now? Then, with the rest of the top 10, meh, although we're going to get to Sinners. But first, Karate Kid Legends. Whew! That took a pretty big blow in just its second weekend. That is headed to digital fast. It will eventually end up on Netflix, where I hope people discover it. That movie also had incredible audience scores. This is a big problem for Hollywood. Movies with very good audience scores are not doing well. The cinema score used to mean a movie would have legs, but now they're getting them taken out. And also, I'd be more excited about the Phoenician Scheme's expansion if speaking of audience scores, those weren't so mediocre. People don't really like that movie. It took away a lot of my enthusiasm for that film. Are you still excited about Phoenician Scheme, or you're like, oh, thanks for warning us, people who saw canaries in the coal mine, canaries in the movie theater? That's funny. I like that, actually. All right, so Even Bring Her Back, which seemed to get off to a solid start last weekend, took a pretty big tumble as well in its second weekend. It just can't make a dent opposite Final Destination Bloodlines, which only dropped 40% in its fourth weekend. That is a very good movie. Anime film Dan to Dan Evil Eye managed to open in the top 10 and with a couple $1 million. You know, sometimes the bottom of the top 10 will have just a couple $100,000 and we're like, it's like in the top 10 with an asterisk. But this is a legit top 10 debut. That's a good sign for those of us who are rooting for adult animation to do well in theaters. Come on, Avatar: The Last Airbender. Those movies, of course, are coming out next year, I think. All right, so in Sinners, which just hit digital, still fell only 45% in its eighth weekend. Oh my gosh. And it's now at 357 worldwide. Ryan Coogler is making it clear in the press that he has no plans for a sequel. How would you feel if there was never a sequel to Sinners? I think all of us right now are focused on this just getting awards. I think Ryan Coogler is too. But I have mixed feelings on whether or not it should get a sequel. I know he worked very hard to get the rights for that to revert back to his family after like 25 years. I would think it would be much more valuable to his family as a franchise. But we'll see. We'll see what they decide to do. What would you hope? Maybe it's too early for anyone to make a decision on it. We certainly don't want a Joker 2 situation to happen. Although Ryan Coogler would never. All right, as you know, he would not pull a Todd Phillips. As we discussed before, Warner Brothers does not have a lot of award contenders this year, so they'll definitely be backing Coogler's Oscar play on the campaign trail. He still has never been nominated for Best Director. I'd like to see that maybe happen here. How would you keep Sinners in the awards conversation? Would you re-release it? Some kind of publicity tour, not just for the industry, but for the general public? Maybe an exhibit at the Academy Museum in Los Angeles or some other museum. I like that idea. I like it a lot. Share your ideas down below. Moving over to streaming for mid-May, here we go. The Last of Us is starting to fall, slipping below Andor. They switch places for this week. Andor's third week, which was incredible, by the way. The second half of Andor season 2 was like for the history books. And then also this was essentially The Last of Us season 2's episode 4, because episode 5 dropped at the very end of this window. That was not so incredible. Some of you liked it, but as you can see, your numbers are starting to drop. What a reversal of fortune to see The Last of Us slipping away, but Andor finally, in its final season, finding an audience. 3 episodes a night, right? Once a week as a mini binge turned out to be a fantastic idea. It's interesting. We'll see if that, when they announced that for Ironheart, some of us got concerned that Disney was just trying to, get rid of it, but maybe it'll help. Maybe it'll actually really work in its favor. I don't know if it was worth $650 million for Disney for 2 seasons, but then again, as we discussed before, if people now maybe start to feel a little better about Star Wars again, right? And maybe it gets a lot of Emmy nominations, we'll see what happens. The Emmy nominations will be announced July 15th. Netflix continues to be on top, though, for whom Vince Vaughn really did have a Mother's Day hit. Again, I do wonder if he and Netflix might sign some sort of deal to continue to work together. On the originals chart, the final season of The Handmaid's Tale is doing okay. Same for Poker Face Season 2, but at least they're charting, even if it is on the secondary chart. Neither one is on the overall. Smaller show The Eternaut, though, climbed a bit from Argentina. I know a lot of you are rooting for that show. Well, Mobland has a death grip on last place. It will not fall off this list. And then look at this. Speaking of pouring some major tea, this is piping hot. Another Simple Favor not only couldn't debut on the overall chart, but it's not even that high up here on the movies chart. It really does seem like Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds have Amber Hearded themselves. Is there a path back for them? I don't think so for Blake Lively, because she wasn't that popular in any sense of the word to begin with. But I'm curious to see if Ryan Reynolds can come back from this. This is just, speaking of, again, reversals of fortune, considering where he was a year ago with Deadpool and Wolverine, and this is where he is now. I mean, it's shocking. I do feel like it's an Amber Heard, Johnny Depp kind of similar scenario. Although I don't think Justin Baldoni seems to have fallen out of the conversation, and people are just hating on Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. But how do you perceive what's going on right now? And is there a way back for Ryan Reynolds? With Netflix's charts for just last week, Sirens is still number one. As I recently said on a live stream, what a show. I was wondering about it last week, and some of you said it was pretty darn good. And someone else I know told me it was good, so I watched it. Watched it in 2 days. It's very good. Great show, great binge. It very much is White Lotus meets Ryan Murphy. But it's from Margot Robbie, and I'm so proud of her. You know, I was worried she might be a one-hit wonder with Barbie, but that she delivered something else so good, and she's not even an actor in it. It's very exciting. You know, Nicole Kidman has made a pledge to only act in or focus on projects with female directors, but it turned out to be a real hit or miss strategy. Some of it's good, some of it's really bad. But with Margot Robbie, it's very exciting to have something else that's so good, and also comes from female creators and focuses on actresses, but with some great male roles too. Great show. I highly recommend it for everybody. But sadly, Department Q, which I also loved, is struggling to find an audience with just a third of Sirens' viewership. I don't think they're getting a season 2, which is a real shame. The big news for Netflix shows this week, though, is that Adolescence has topped Stranger Things Season 4 to become the second most watched English language series of all time on the streamer, behind only Wednesday. That's incredible. Expect Adolescence to get a lot of Emmy noms, again, on July 15th. It's the Baby Reindeer, I think, the next Baby Reindeer. Although, interestingly, Baby Reindeer isn't anywhere on the all-time most watched shows list, but still, obviously, was a huge pop culture moment. With movies, Fear Street Prom Queen is still a soft number one, while Chris Sanders is having quite a moment right now. Lilo and Stitch is number one in theaters, How to Train Your Dragon is about to come out, and Here's the Wild Robot doing very well on Netflix. It's great to see talent get its due, but nobody's talking about Chris Sanders. That's incredible, despite all of this. What's going on? Does he not have a publicist? He should get one. Then on iTunes, sure enough, here's Sinners at number one with its debut, giving Warner Brothers the top 2 movies on digital right now. Warfare and A Working Man are still also continuing to do quite well. And look at that! It seems people really are waiting for Ballerina to hit digital because it's already in the top 10 with pre-orders. Lionsgate's like, see it in a theater, please! Is that you? Did you pre-order it instead? And also, while people wait for Ballerina, they're apparently tiding themselves over with the John Wick 4-pack. You know, like Lionsgate gets that money, so maybe they'll end up being okay with it. I mean, they have to be. This is what's happening. Wicked is also back in the top 10 thanks to the release of the first trailer for part 2. Oh, and people are also getting ready for 28 years later by watching the first movie. Very good signs for both of those upcoming films. It's also worth noting that Good Night and Good Luck is just outside the top 10 thanks to George Clooney's Broadway version being, the movie was from him too, but he stars in the Broadway version that was live streamed on CNN last night. Did anyone watch? And would you like to see more Broadway shows go live? There's been some discussion that they don't want to undercut Broadway shows that are doing very well. So a Broadway show, has to have like a dip in ticket sales, or it has to be something that's not going to come back like Good Night and Good Luck. Because George Clooney's not going to do it again. But, for instance, Frozen's theatrical production is coming to Disney Plus later this month. Yes, I know the Tonys are tonight. I'm sure some of you are already typing that. And we're going to talk about it in just a minute. But yes, we're taking a look at this coming week. Not only is How to Train Your Dragon flying into theaters, but you're getting a Pedro Pascal appetizer with Materialists. And I must say, like Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo, Pedro Pascal really knows how to light up a press tour. He is dominating on social media as an equal opportunity flirt. The man has chemistry with everyone. And speaking of Cynthia Erivo, it's a big night for her because, yes, she's hosting the Tonys. Who are you rooting for? I'm rooting for Jonathan Groff and also Maybe Happy Ending. I got the chance to see both of those shows in person, and they were both amazing. I believe maybe Happy Ending is wrapped up, but Jonathan Groff will be performing as Bobby Darin, I think, at least through the rest of the summer, and that's an incredible show. If you have a chance to catch that, you should. The Life of Chuck will also go wide, but people don't seem to be that interested in Tom Hiddleston unless he's Loki, so it's a good thing he's confirmed already to be coming back for Avengers Doomsday. On digital on Tuesday, there's Clown in a Cornfield. There might be some other stuff, but nothing's been officially announced yet. While on streaming, Snow White will hit Disney Plus on Wednesday. Have any of you been waiting for that moment? Prime Video has Deep Cover on Thursday, and on Friday, Apple TV has Echo Valley, while Hulu has Absolution. There are some, medium-sized stars there. That's pretty good star power. As for shows, FUBAR returns to Netflix on Thursday with Carrie-Anne Moss joining the fun. Hopefully, she's used a little bit more than she was in The Acolyte. And that's this week's Movie Math. What have you been watching? What do you plan to watch? And what movies are you rooting for and maybe against? Share your thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.